Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. The army of 1,000,000 rushed over and clashed with the Yudu monster army. In an instant, blood and flesh flew into the sky in the intense battles. The devils only knew how to kill and held to no battle formations. They relied on their own abilities to fight and paid no attention to their comrades, so their side suffered countless casualties. A place of slaughter was born dozens of miles in front of without embroiling city. Countless soldiers from Death's world in the painting were killed. Upon death, they turned into rocks. They left no corpses. However, there were countless soldiers from the army of gods rushing out, replacing those who'd fallen. They continued to slaughter with their endless numbers. There seemed to be a count of wind controlling the air currents in the sky, and he was assisted by Master of Rain, God of Thunder, and Goddess of Lightning, which all attacked the Yudu monster army. The vanguard was blocked, and the roars of devil ancestors who were as big as mountains rang in the air. They exerted all of their strength to rush into the battlefield. Where their feet passed, everyone, no matter if they were friends or foes, was blown into the sky by their incomparably thick legs which shattered their bones. The devil ancestors rushed into the battlefield and swept all those before them like dead branches which broke in midair. Twang! The gazes of the devil ancestors filled with surging devil flames which swept across the army of the gods. The black-colored flame pillars swirled furiously and burned everything they passed into ashes. Even the gods drawn by death couldn't escape the terrifying divine art. The devil ancestors' corporeal bodies were natural weapons of destruction when they swung their huge weapons. They had no match. The gods in Death's painting cannot hold back these devil ancestors. Butcher blazed with fighting spirit and gripped his huge knife. With his lightning-like gaze, he said solemnly, "It's our turn. Ba-Shan, as my disciple, let me see if you have improved over the years." Ba-Shan laughed loudly and called his green bull over. He jumped onto its back and shouted, "Teacher, let me go with you and show you my progress." Divine Spear Longtool transformed into a black dragon, and Blind stretched his hand to grab it. With a strong jolt, the black dragon spear became straight and gave off a low, excited growl. Great overarching heavenly stars appeared behind Granny Sai, and the flames of the furnace behind Mute's back also rushed into the sky. Cripple hesitated for a moment before saying in a troubled voice, "I don't have a divine weapon I can use, so I won't be going." Apothecary jumped onto Cripple's back and said with a smile, "I'm your divine weapon. Let us wreak havoc." Cripple's old face turned black, and he said resentfully, "Medicine Man, aren't you afraid your women will all become widows?" "Bah! Old man's words carry no harm. Great luck, great profit." From the basket on Apothecary's back, countless insects climbed out and grew in the wind. They transformed into behemoths that either ran on the land or flew in the sky. Their toxins were so great that they formed clouds in the sky. "Let us go hunt the devil ancestors." Butcher rushed into the battlefield first while shouting, "Mua, look after Death. If you see the situation turning bad, just pick him up and run." Qin Mu acknowledged it and looked at Chancellor Ba-Shan riding a huge green cow into the world in the painting. He was followed by Granny Sai, Mute, Blind, and the rest. Together, they attacked the devil ancestors. The green bull leaped as though it was flying. Even with its huge body, it was incomparably nimble. When he stepped on the huge monsters, his hooves smashed their heads into smithereens while avoiding their attacks. It was evident that with his speed and quick wits, he had excess strength in this situation and could move about as he wished. Qin Mu looked at the dragon Qilin beside him, also wanting to ride into battle to fight the monsters. But after some thought, he held himself back. Fatty Dragon's speed is good, but his endurance isn't. His reaction speed isn't as fast as the Green Bull's, and if he rushes in, I will die very fast. Fatty Dragon still lacks training. He took out teleportation flags, and with a wave of his hand, he planted them around Death. He led the dragon Qilin and Hulinga into the area surrounded by the flags as well so they could leave any time. Behind the army of Yudu monsters, devil gods led the army of devils in orderly ranks. It was evident that the military management was stern. They weren't a ragtag bunch like the Yudu monsters. They were relying on those creatures as the vanguard to scatter Lee City's defenses. They would then take the chance during the chaos to take down Lee City and the resistance of Supreme Emperor Heaven in one fell swoop. However, they didn't expect in without embroiling City, this place which been destroyed and turned into the ruin of the devil race. Millions of soldiers would appear out nowhere and actually block the Yudu monsters' advance. Compared to the Yudu monsters, the foot soldiers of the devil army were much slower. The distance between them had grown great in time, so they couldn't support the front lines right away. The army of the center was even further away, and Fu Rilua looked at the battlefield from far away with a slight frown. His three faces looked around as he asked in astonishment, who knows from where this army of gods popped out? The devil gods beside him all shook their heads. Yudu's devil monsters and devil ancestors relied on their instincts to kill and eat, while the devils were like humans. They possessed extremely high intelligence, otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to develop such a great civilization and cultivation system. Yet even with their outstanding intelligence, they still had no idea from where the army of 1,000,000 had come and why they had entered the battle. Even though Eternal Peace was very powerful, it was still weaker than Supreme Emperor Heaven. Its army was still the main force, while Eternal Peace's divine arts practitioners were the assisting force. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had completely no idea of this surprise attack, so he could have never brought so many soldiers to block the Yudu monster army. In that case, from where had this army of gods come? Fu Rilua looked at Lu Li, but the peerless beauty was also bewildered. She shook her head and said, "Respectable king, I also don't know from where they came. Eternal Peace doesn't have many experts, but Great Ruins does. Could they be from there?" Astonished, Fu Rilua shouted out, "Pass down my orders. The army is to set up camp, build a city, and set up defenses against the attacks of the enemy. Send scouts to investigate from where this army of gods came." By the time he finished speaking, the first troop of devils had already reached the ruin of Without Embroiling City under the leadership of a devil god. They were some 400 miles from the battlefield when they received the order to immediately set up camp and not join the battle. Numerous devil soldiers and strong workers moved mountains and erected rocks to quickly build a city wall. They then slaughtered huge beasts and used their blood to write devil writings all over them to strengthen the city's defenses. The devils in the city constructed sentry and archer towers. They were very busy. The devil god gave a shout and led a few generals out of the city to head to the front lines. They observed the origin of the Supreme Emperor Heaven's army fighting up ahead. When they came to the mountaintop right in front of the battlefield, the devil god erected a huge mirror that was over 30 yards tall to reflect the situation ahead. After a moment, Fu Rilua took out a mirror and examined what it showed. Upon seeing the battle situation reflected to him, suspicion filled his face. His gaze was sharp, and he could make out some clues. The army of gods that had suddenly appeared wasn't truly made up of life forms. Even though their abilities were very strong, they seemed to be gods created with the art of creation. However, he noticed that there was more than just the army of gods in that battlefield. There were also a few extremely strong people that were assassinating the devil ancestors in the chaos. They were experts of the god level. One of them was a butcher with a sturdy physique, another an old blacksmith, while a third was a shorty wielding a black dragon bone spear. These three people were the most terrifying. When they worked together, even devil ancestors could be assassinated in the chaos. Besides them, there was also a peerless beauty, a sturdy man riding a green bull, and an old man in green carrying a bronze-masked man shuttling back and forth throughout the battlefield. Countless venomous creatures were spewing venom everywhere and killing waves of Yudu monsters. The bronze-masked man was the most terrifying out of this group. Everywhere he passed, his poison killed waves of devil monsters. The damage he dealt to the overall army was much greater than what the other strong practitioners had managed. Numerous devil monsters were either poisoned to death or decomposed into mush. His methods were much more terrifying than those of gods. Even the Yudu monster army that the devil race had summoned from Yudu couldn't handle the poison of this person. Where did these people come from? Where did this army of gods that had been created come from? Fu Rilua couldn't see their origin, so he said solemnly, "Lu Li, the army of gods on the other side is both real and fake. There are true gods hidden among the illusions, and I don't know how many of them are really present there. May your distinguished self call back the devil monster army so we can think about our next step. Lu Li moved alluringly and raised her beautiful brows. She looked very beautiful, but her voice was very rough. Fu Rilio, you should be able to see that the enemy's abilities aren't actually that great. There are only 5-6 real gods among them. You just need to kill them and your devil army will be able to crush the other side. If we retreat now and give Supreme Emperor Heaven time to take in a breath, it will be a bit more difficult to just crush them the next time. Fu Rilio shook his head. The opponents are already on their guard. We no longer have time to catch Li City unawares, so why don't we reorganize the troops and take the chance to clarify what's real and what's fake? Besides, how do you know there are only 5-6 gods? What if more are hidden among them? We would only suffer more casualties that way. I can't gamble with the future of my devil race. Helpless, Lu Li could only give a loud cry, screeching in Yudu devil language. In the front lines, numerous devil ancestors heard her voice and cried out as well, calling the monster army to retreat. Qin Mu heard Lu Li's voice and his spirit stirred slightly. This is Yudu devil language? I know it too. Without thinking, he also used Yudu devil language which exploded in the sky above the battlefield. His voice could be heard in some 20-30 miles of land. The devil ancestors that heard his voice all stopped and turned their heads back. Dull devil language came out from their mouths as they replied to him. Qin Mu shouted a few phrases loudly, and the devil ancestors turned around and knelt down on one knee while lowering their heads. Butcher, Mute, and the rest were covered in blood. They were planning to give chase, but stopped when they saw this sight. They had no idea what to do. Far away, Fu Rilio saw the devil monsters and the devil ancestors stop, and he instantly knew that something was wrong. He looked at Lu Li. Cold sweat rolled down Lu Li's forehead, and she chuckled. Fu Rilio, aren't you a little too useless to actually let this little thing live? That little thing is right in the enemy camp. Little thing, you want to steal my right to control them? Dream on. Her voice became very mournful, and her devil voice rumbled like thunder as it exploded above the battlefield. Her voice covered Qin Mu so that not a word he said could be heard. Qin Mu gave a grunt and tried to speak Yudu devil language louder, but his voice didn't go far. The devil ancestors revealed blank expressions and got up. They restrained their Yudu monsters and retreated. Butcher, Mute, Blind, and the rest followed the army of gods to give chase to the numerous devil ancestors fleeing with the Yudu monsters. After chasing for some 30-50 miles, the army of gods suddenly stopped while Cripple still carried Apothecary, rushing headlong. When they suddenly realized there was no one around them, they shuddered and ran back. Only when they returned to the army did they feel at ease. This is Death's limit, so we can't go any further. If we continue to give chase, we will give the game away, Granny whispered. You guys didn't even inform us ahead of time, made me still continue to push forward, Cripple grumbled. Apothecary climbed down from his back, his legs still trembling. Damned Cripple, I almost died to the devils because of you. On the other side, Death was still waving his brush around with his face flushed. Qin Mu saw that something was wrong and immediately went forward to pull onto Death. His clear voice rang like the roars of a dragon beside the man's ears. Grandpa Death, the enemies have retreated, wake up. Death immediately stopped the brush and revealed a blank expression. He felt sweetness rising up his throat and a mouthful of fresh blood poured out. Qin Mu's face changed slightly, and his hand quickly moved to tap on the elder's throat and heart. He sealed his chi and blood which had gone frantic. Next, he tapped on the heart of his brows and quickly moved around his body while executing heavenly devil creation technique. He tapped Death's body repeatedly to control the energy. Death could be said to have exerted all his power, and he had damaged his heart and primordial spirit. The heart was the central administration of the chi and blood. Because they had become frantic, his blood vessels couldn't endure any longer and his heart was taxed too, so he coughed up blood. Qin Mu sealed the places where his heart and throat were, forcing the blood back. Def's primordial spirit was also overly exhausted, so it was unstable, showing signs of being on the verge of crumbling. Qin Mu thus used heavenly devil creation technique to seal his 3 souls and 7 spirits, preventing them from leaving his body. In this way, he could delay the problem for a bit and make it easier to treat him. Qin Mu quickly took out herbs to refine pills. After a moment, the pills were done and he pinched open Def's mouth to send the pills in. He then used all kinds of hand techniques to catalyze the medicinal energy. Granny Sai, blind, and the rest returned. An apothecary went to take over. He treated Def and said, "Luckily Mua saw that something was wrong early, so Def won't have any lasting problems. His vital qi is greatly exhausted, but with me around, I assure you he will alive and be jumping by tonight." Def gave a snort and said indifferently, "I won't be jumping around. How can a scholar be jumping around like a monkey?" Everyone was relieved, and Granny Sai asked, "Def, how long can your painting last?" "As long as the world in the painting doesn't shatter, this army of gods will be able to exist forever." Def sat down and apothecary treated him with care, hurrying to and fro. Qin Mu stayed at the side to assist him while Hu Linga carried the needle plate to assist Qin Mu. It was very lively as the 3 of them conversed with one another. However, it isn't too troublesome to destroy this world in the painting. It's only because the devils were caught off guard, not knowing what's real and what's fake, that I managed to have my way with them. Def's face was filled with silver needles, and the corners of his eyes twitched randomly. Apothecary stabbed another needle at the corner of his eyes, and they no longer twitched. However, he felt half of his face go numb. Def's eyes slanted to one side. One of his eyeballs was higher than the other. He drooled from the corner of his mouth. "If I can recover my vital qi by tonight, I'll draw another painting and make them even more afraid. Apothecary, I feel that my face is not main anymore. I can't fend my tongue. This needle is used for acupuncture and moxibustion of your primordial spirit, but it affects the nerves on your face. They will temporarily be dysfunctional. Don't worry. Mua, you did well by sealing his souls and spirits. Take a look at this needle. Where should I use it?" Apothecary looked slightly hesitant when he pointed at a spot near Def's backbone. "I'm not sure if I should use it here or not," he said while giving Qin Mu a look. Qin Mu examined it in detail and said with a smile, "Grandpa Apothecary is testing me. If you use it in this position, you will pierce the earth soul and fix his primordial at the genitals. The needle will also pierce his life and death divine treasure, and the devil chi and devil nature of Yudu will be able to invade and taint the perineum as well as the earth soul. He will definitely be unable to give birth and even have a huge change in temperament." Apothecary pulled the silver needle back with a straight face and nodded slowly. "I was testing you, and you actually managed to see through it." Qin Mu smiled at him. "I knew you were testing me. Grandpa Apothecary should have been planning to stab this needle through his life and death realm and divine bridge realm, allowing Grandpa Def's vital chi to travel between the 2 divine treasures. It will pierce divine bridge realm and guide the vital chi there to life and death realm, which will be just enough to suppress the devil nature and devil chi of life and death realm without Grandpa Def's breathing function." His finger moved a few spaces up, and he looked at Apothecary in anticipation. This is the position in which Grandpa Apothecary would have really stabbed. Right? Apothecary let out a long sound of acknowledgement. His face didn't turn red and his heart didn't skip a beat. He sighed to himself in shame. Mua, this little fellow, is no doubt the person who established the space algebra model of the Divine Bridge. His understanding of the Divine Bridge is just a little better than mine. Def heard their discussion and cold sweat formed on his forehead. Big droplets started rolling down. "What if we stab Grandpa Def in this place?" Hu Linga asked with excitement as she pointed at Def's chi. Qin Mu and Apothecary immediately spoke together. "We can't stab there. If we were careless, his cultivation would be destroyed." Def's face turned ashen, and he narrowed his eyes at the girl. "Linga, I've even taught you to read." Apothecary was still superior to Qin Mu. The youth only had more understanding of Divine Bridge Divine Treasure while Apothecary knew all the other treasures much better, so Qin Mu could only look most of the time. Finally, Def's primordial spirit was stabilized, An apothecary matched herbs to let him recover his vital chi. When night settled, mournful screeches came from far away. The devils kept up the commotion the whole night and even beat their drums from time to time, acting like they were about to attack. Yet they never made a move. It was all to harass Qin Mu and the rest, not letting them have the time to rest. The next day, the rest of the devil army's troops reached the impromptu city one after another. The devils had extremely great military power, and there were troops hurrying over from everywhere. Numerous devil god commanders reached the front line and looked at the abyss of without embroiling city from far away. They were astonished when they saw the incomparably magnificent god city had suddenly appeared where the ruin of without embroiling city had been just recently. The god city reached 300 yards in height. The city walls were like mountains that stretched across heaven and earth. The buildings in the city stood tall, and there were divine cannons set up along the city's battlements. On the high towers, there were up to 100 huge eyeball-shaped sun-shot divine cannon. Countless god officers and soldiers in golden looked awe-inspiring while on the city wall. They patrolled along the top, walking to and fro. In the sky above the god city, there were auspicious clouds rising in spirals, and 1,000 rays of multicolored sunlight. It was a vision given off by the aura of gods. Unease started to spread among the devils, and all the devil god commanders looked at one another in dismay. The place where the ruin should have stood suddenly had a magnificent-looking god city in its place, and there actually so many gods standing guard on its walls. The top of the city was even densely packed with divine cannons which looked extremely scary. There were enough of them to blow the devil army that came rushing into smithereens. The sunshot divine cannons farther away made their hair stand in anger even more. 100 sunshot divine cannons, how was this still a war? So much firepower was enough to destroy an entire world. When the devil gods saw everything, they couldn't help the fear that spread over them, and they held back their troops. They prayed that the opponent wouldn't attack first. A devil god spread his wings and said softly, "I shall report this to respectable King Fu Rilio first. You guys stay guard, don't let the other side break through our main camp." He flew for quite some time to welcome Fu Rilio, who was leading the main army. He told him about the situation. Fu Rilio looked at him in astonishment. To actually have something like this? Don't attack first, send some scouts over to check if they are real or fake. The army I'm leading will reach you at night time by the latest. The devil god acknowledged and flew back. He ordered a group of scouts to go investigate. When they were still 30 miles away from the god city, dozens of cannons suddenly shot beams of light and turned the group of scouts into ashes. The devil god with wings immediately flew back and reported to Fu Rilio. "Respectable king, I've sent scouts, but they were killed by cannons 30 miles away. The cannons are all real." Fu Rilio felt his scalp crawl and cried out, "How can there be such a god city? If Supreme Emperor Heaven had this kind of city, my devil race would have long been wiped out. It's impossible for Supreme Emperor Heaven to have something like that, and it's also impossible for eternal peace to possess it. This city can't be real." The devil god with wings didn't dare to say a word. Fu Rilio's expressions flickered. He then shouted, "Pass the order down to the front line, no one is to retreat. Whoever dares to retreat, I'll take their head as a sacrifice. When my army arrives, we will raise the place down." The devil god acknowledged meekly and flew back. When night came, Fu Rilio finally led his main army to the front lines. Looking at the god city from far away, he couldn't see through it. His expression flickered as he couldn't make a decision. If the god city was real, even devil gods would be severely injured if they attacked. He didn't dare to gamble with the future of the devil race. In the city, Qin Mu and the rest tidied up their baggage, ready to retreat. The god city was fake. Death had drawn it overnight, but even though the entire city was fake, the dozens of cannons on the city walls were real. Qin Mu had instructed Cai Yunxiang to send them at night by primordial spirit assembly. It was because of them that the devils got scared. All of the devil gods and Fu Rilio couldn't tell what was real and what was fake. However, if Fu Rilio made the decision to attack, they wouldn't even need the main force of their army. Just the Yudu devil gods and devil monsters would be enough to raise the city. Because of that, Qin Mu and the rest could only slip away. Otherwise, if Fu Riluo's attack came, they wouldn't be able to leave anymore. Qin Mu and the rest walked out of the city gate and rushed toward Li City. Suddenly though, the dark night became bright as a sun slowly rose in the sky and lighted up a radius of several thousand miles. It had been night moments before, so how could it become day out of nowhere? Could Imperial Preceptor have gotten the hours wrong when he forged the sun? Qin Mu and the rest wondered about it when they saw a three-legged god blazing furiously with divine flames walking over to them. When he moved, the sun in the sky followed after him. Sun Sovereign, this should be the place where I met that youth's shadow in great ruins, a clear voice said. Walking in front of the three-legged god was a very handsome young man. He looked at Qin Mu and the rest with a smile. There was another person whose build wasn't great, and there was some weapon like a spear on his back. It'd be quite easy to recognize. His gaze fell on Blind, who was walking out of the city before circling around everyone and finally landing on Qin Mu. He said with a smile, "Son of Yudu Qin Mu, Qin Fengqing? You aren't bad. I would have never expected for you to have been the one I saw in Great Ruins. I felt strange back then and thought that you were weird and extraordinary." Qin Mu disregarded him, his gaze falling on the right hand of the three-legged god with wings. There was no hand there. He is the god that cut Grandpa Butcher in half and the guardian of the fake sky in eternal peace. Butcher took out the severed hand and said calmly, "God of the sky above, have you given chase by following the aura of this thing? You want to take revenge for your severed hand? I also want to take revenge for what you did to me. However, your hand is still with me while my body has already recovered. I won't take advantage of you." He threw the hand bone, and it streaked across the sky like a meteor before landing on Sun Sovereign's right wrist, which automatically connected with it. Sun Sovereign's gaze landed on his body, and he moved his hand around. He said softly, "You returned my hand bone, which shows you are straightforward and upright, but where's the blood, flesh, and skin? Eaten by Grandmaster of Roland's Golden Palace. He couldn't chew your chicken bone, so only the chicken claw is left." Butcher raised his knife and said indifferently, "We fight right here." Sun Sovereign looked at Qin Mu and hesitated. He then looked at young Master Qi Jiui and hesitated again. Qin Mu also looked at young Master Qin and asked curiously, "This brother, what did you say earlier?" He looked at him apologetically. "Can you repeat yourself? I wasn't paying attention." This video will end here.